welcome everybody. Welcome to this very, very special interview. I'm Suzana Mihajlovic, founder of Your Two Minds, and we have one of my favorite authors in the world, and probably one of your favorite authors, the great Neale Donald Walsch, with us. So, Neale Donald Walsch is one of the most widely read spiritual authors of our time. He is best known for the internationally acclaimed Conversations with God series, a publishing phenomenon translated in 37 languages and read by millions in countries around the world. He's the author of 40 books on contemporary spirituality. Neale has spent decades exploring life's deepest questions with honesty, warmth, and a rare willingness to sit with uncertainty. His work does not preach, it invites. It does not instruct, it opens. And we're going to be talking about his latest book, which I absolutely love. I've got notes and I've marked pages in there. His latest book, Letters to a Young Seeker, Departing Thoughts from an Elder. So this book represents the distilled wisdom of a lifetime, 21 timeless insights offered as a gift to anyone who is still searching, still growing, still asking. Aren't we all? Welcome, Neale Donald Walsch. It is so wonderful to have you with us today.
Well, thank you, Susanna. Those are kind words for you to say, and I appreciate all those nice thoughts. How can I serve you today?
So we are honored to have you with us. I want to start with some of the inner awareness pieces that you've got in your beautiful book, Letters to a Young Seeker. And I thought about starting with the very last one. I love them all. They give us such deep insight, and it's really like a pathway or a plan for life. But inner awareness number 21, the most powerful thing to do is not to be a seeker, but a source. I've summarized that, but in your words, it states the most powerful way to experience uh, what you want to experience in your life is not to be a seeker, but to be the source. Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, thank you for asking that question because it is a powerful insight that I was given in my conversations with God.
Yeah.
Um, when I was a younger person, I actually took pride in calling myself a seeker. I'm a real seeker. I'm seeking wisdom, I'm seeking clarity, I'm seeking understanding. I'm seeking, a greater connection with God. I'm seeking all sorts of wonderful things. And I thought it was really great to be a seeker. And there's nothing wrong with being a seeker. It simply isn't the most effective way to
Mm,
experience what we wish to experience in our life. I was told in my conversations with God when
mm,
she said to me, Neale, the fastest way, the most effective way to experience anything that you wish to experience in your life is to be the source, not
mm,
a seeker of it, but to be the source of it in the life of another.
mm,
You want more humor in your life? Be the source of more humor in the life of another. You want more abundance in your life? Be the source of more abundance in the life of another. You want to experience more patience in your life? Be the source of more patience in the life of another. And the list goes on and on. Whatever you want more of in your life, be the source of it in the life of another. You want more sex in your life? Well, I think you get the point.
Beep. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that inner awareness, I think it's so potent and so powerful because we are living in a society at the moment where it's doom and gloom, or people are seeing it as doom and gloom. There's so many, you know, big problems, conflicts that are happening around the world. And there are so many people searching. There's this thing where truth seekers or we're searching, and they're searching outside of themselves. But what you've just shared in that insight is we are the source. So become
Yes.
the source. Yeah.
And I love this. I love that you said, use the word truth. If you want to experience more truth in your life, be the source of more truth in the life of another. Now, if I could just add one more comment about why that works so well. What God said to me was, when you are the source of what you wish to experience in your life, when you're the source of it in the life of another, what you experience is that you have enough, that you actually have what you wish you had more of. In
Yeah.
fact, you have enough to actually give some away. And I'll never forget, when I experienced that, just walking down the street, wishing that I had more financial abundance in my life. This was after my conversations with God. And then I saw a homeless man sitting on the sidewalk, leaning up against the building with a basket in front of him with a little cardboard sign in the basket that said, anything helps. And even though I wanted more abundance in my life, I reached into my pocket. I'm not bragging, I'm just saying what happened. I
Yeah.
reached I reached into my pocket and I found some folding money and I dropped some folding money into his basket. And then I continued on my way. He said, "Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, mister." And I continued walking on my way. But I had the direct experience. I have all the abundance I need in my life. I have enough abundance. I just gave some away to this guy on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And of course, what I then began to experience is that even more abundance came flowing to me because what flows through you sticks to you.
Yeah.
This was the wonderful statement that God made to me. Neale, what flows through you
Stick.
sticks to you.
That's beautiful. What flows through you sticks to you. That's absolutely beautiful. And you have an extraordinary story. And as you were sharing that, it actually reminded me of, your story and how I think you were 52 when you ended up basically life fell apart, or it looked like it fell apart. It sometimes falls apart to fall together. And you ended up on the streets. And I remember you sharing that even a dime, made a difference to you. Like, even if someone had just a tiny amount of money that they felt was irrelevant, it was a lot for you. So, yeah, sometimes we judge, 10 cents or a dollar as not enough, but it is enough and wanted and needed by some people.
Everything is relative, of course. When I was living on the sidewalk, and you're right, and I lived as a street person for 1 year of my life, not for a couple of bad weeks or a couple of tough months. I was out there sleeping on the sidewalk, going from person to person with my hand out, asking for whatever they might be able to share for 1 year of my life. Because of circumstances, I don't need to get into all of those circumstances, but it placed me on the street and living, out there in the weather, in the cold. It was through the winter. I can't even claim that it was all summertime, no problem. Through the rain, it was, a very tough year of my life. But you know what it taught me? How little I need to really
Wow.
be happy.
Wow. Wow. How little I need to be really happy. And of course, then that goes to what you shared once. I think it was in last year's interview with you that it was um, you went to a place, a village in Africa, and you realized how much, how little they had, yet they were the kindest, most generous, and happiest people that you've, ever
That I had
met.
ever met in my life. Yes, this was in Ouagadougou, That's the actual name of a city. It's the capital of the country called Upper Volta in central West Africa. And I went to Ouagadougou. I was invited there to give a little talk. So I gave my little talk in Ouagadougou, but I was introduced to a family that lived in Ouagadougou, and you described the situation perfectly. They lived in a home. It wasn't a home really, and not the way you and I think of a house. It was a brick, just kind of a brick building with holes in the walls. They didn't have windows. They didn't have
Wow.
electricity. There was
Wow.
no electrical power to the house. They lived by candlelight. There was no such thing as a dishwasher, or an air
Wow.
conditioner.
No.
And they lived off what they planted in the garden outside of this place where they
Yeah.
lived. But I never met people who were happier. They laughed and they sang. And when they invited me to their home and they invited me to have dinner with them, to eat out of the garden that they had planted. And it was an incredible eye opener for me. I said to myself, if I ever complain again about not having enough of what I
Mm,
think I need to be a happy person,
mm, mm.
somebody slap me in the face and wake me up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what I say to people now when they complain to me that they don't have enough, I say to them, come with me to Ouagadougou.
Huh. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I think everybody in the Western world needs to experience something like that because we have so much, and we also have the highest levels of mental health issues and depression and all that. So, yeah, definitely, definitely. So, Neale, in your beautiful book, Letters to a Young Seeker, inner awareness number 7, pain and suffering are not the same thing. So I think that story is a nice leadway to pain and suffering are not the same thing. Again, I'm not sure about what states. Well, I'm sure it is very similar, but I know in Australia, the past few years, it feels like a lot of people are very worried, very fearful, and in a painful emotional state, and feel like they are suffering. They're finding it harder and harder to make ends meet. There is fear and fear from the news. Talk to us a little bit about, the difference between pain and suffering.
Well, from my experience, and I've had a lot of uh, pain in my life, and earlier in my life, I had a lot of suffering as well, but
Yes.
not since I've had my conversations with God, because God made it clear to me that pain is simply a an objective, physical, or emotional experience. Now, I've had emotional pain and physical pain, as have we all,
Mm,
but
mm,
suffering is the result of our thought that what's happening shouldn't be happening. And so we suffer because we think that the pain we're experiencing, we shouldn't be experiencing. And the
mm.
example that God gave me when she told me about this idea, she said, Neale, a woman in childbirth very often experiences pain. But at the same time
Yes.
they experience pain, tears of joy
Joy.
are
Yeah.
rolling down their cheeks as they realize they're bringing new life into the world. A
Yeah.
miracle is taking place, and they are part of creating that miracle. And
Yeah.
so, what we need to understand is that every moment of pain in our life is a rebirth, it's a birthing. We're rebirthing ourselves. We're being born again into the next grandest version of the greatest vision
Yeah.
we ever held about who we are. That's been my experience. And since my conversations with God, I have moved through moments of pain in my life. I've had open heart surgery, by the way. I had a
Wow.
quintuple
Wow.
bypass, not a triple bypass, not a quadruple bypass. I had a quintuple bypass. And that was not a small operation. And the recuperating period was not, 1 or 2 days. It took me a while to get through that. And there was
Mm,
some pain involved. both emotional and physical pain.
Yeah.
But I saw that it was part of a larger process called the evolution of Neale.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything that occurs in my life assists me in my evolutionary journey. And so I see it as an opportunity for me to express gratitude.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. I love that. I love that. You know, it reminds me also of my own personal experience where the past 2, 3 years have been the most difficult time of my life. Massive, massive changes, massive, you know, letting go of things and people and lots of grief and at times it had felt almost, well, it felt debilitating for a long time. And my heart was completely crushed. But on days where I stopped and remembered who I truly was, not as a human being, as a person, but that I'm source energy and that something is transforming for something greater to take place, that only that core essence, God, if you want to call it that, knows, then there's the beauty in the pain. It transforms the experience. There's no longer suffering. The pain is still there, but it transforms the experience. It's almost like a surrender to the pain, surrender to God for something more beautiful to evolve.
Yes, I was told in my conversations with God, Neale, what you resist persists.
Yes.
Therefore, do not resist when an unwelcome event occurs in your life. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to beg for more, but also don't have to resist it. You simply allow it to be what it is. As the famous Beatles song said, let it
Yes.
be. Let it be. Just let it be.
Yeah.
And don't resist it. And then I move from non-resistance into, as I mentioned a moment ago, into actual gratitude. Thank you, God, for helping me to understand that this problem is being solved for me.
Yeah. 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 I remember in one of our, we had a one-on-one session. We had 3 one-on-one sessions, you and I, and that's what you suggested, that quote. So remember, thank you, God, that this has already been resolved for me. And I wrote that down and I've referred to that many times. It's the letting go, isn't it? Let go and let God. That's where our true power is.
And for me as well, it was for help me understand why I'm really here. I'm not here, to get the girl or get the car, or get the job, get the house, get my name on the building on the corner. Those aren't the reasons that I'm here on earth. I can do
Mm,
those things if I want to, but that's not why I'm here.
yeah.
My understanding is that I am a spiritual entity having a physical experience. And the reason that I'm here is to use every moment of my life and every event, every circumstance, every situation as an opportunity to announce and declare, to express and fulfill, to become and to experience, to demonstrate who I really am, which is an individuation of divinity, which of course we all are. And when a person chooses to demonstrate themselves as an individuation of divinity, suddenly everyone around them starts calling them a master. Spiritual masters, if you do that at a very high level,
Yeah.
that's what spiritual masters do.
That's what Jesus did. That's
That's what
what
Catherine
Buddha
Geneva
did.
did. That's
Yeah,
that's what Mother Teresa did. That's
exactly.
what Elizabeth of Hungary did. That's what the Buddha did, Siddhartha Gautama. That's, of course, what Jesus did. That's what Muhammad, bless his holy name, did. That's what Moses did. I mean, that's what all the people who we have called masters have done. This is not new information. People say that I'm a so-called New Age author. You know what? We've been given this information
Yeah,
thousands and thousands of years ago.
that's right. Yeah.
So the question is not whether we've been given the information, but when will we pay
Yeah.
attention?
When will we pay attention? Absolutely, absolutely. And that power is what transforms. I was blessed to have a grandmother who's gone now. But she was pure love. She had a big personality, she was authentic, and she was pure love. And it's interesting because my brother and I felt completely safe in her presence. We were able to be ourselves, but also we did not play up because there was no need to. It was just pure love. It transformed whatever was happening within us to that vibration. And you talk about that in your book, where the feeling and the emotion that you experience does impact others. It does, change the states of other people.
That's been
It,
my experience
yeah,
for certain. That's been my personal experience. And that's why I put it in the book to share it with people who are still seeking answers to life's biggest problems. Stop seeking the answer. Be the answer in the life of all those whose lives you touch. And
mm,
when you decide to do that, it's amazing what happens. Because once you decide to actually be that person, opportunities that you didn't see before arise in your life right and left over and over again, everywhere you look. Another opportunity for you to announce and declare, to express and fulfill, to demonstrate who you really are and who they really are. Because you decide that one of your major objectives in life is to give people back to themselves. I was given three,
beautiful. Wow. Yes.
I was given
So,
three assignments by God,
uh-huh.
and all of us have been given the same assignments. Number one, change the world's mind about God. God is not condemning, judging, and punishing. God
Mm,
is unconditionally loving. Mission number two, give people back to themselves. Don't let a moment go by when you can share with another person, even a total stranger, what you see in them that causes you to feel good about them and about yourself. You know, to give you an example of what I mean, I was at the post office this morning, and the clerk at the post office, I was just listening to her dealing with the customers ahead of me. And I thought, she's perfect. She knows exactly what to say. She's making people feel very comfortable. She's answering their questions lucidly and completely and gently. She hasn't lost patience with one person. When I got to her place, when I was the next in line, I said to her, can I share something with you? I just want you to know that I notice. You have high level people skills, and I admire the way you interact with everyone who's come before me in this line. You're an extraordinary person in your ability to interact with other people gently, with patience, with understanding, with a certain level of personal compassion, with sensitivity, and with true caring. Thank you for being
wow.
who you are. And she looked at me. She said, thank you for saying such a nice thing to me. You know what? I'm not bragging about it. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I want you to know that people can go through many, many years of their lives without ever hearing anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you see something in another that you admire, tell them,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
even if they're total strangers, not just members of your own family, not just neighbors who live across the street who you've known for 10 years, even if they're total strangers, tell them.
Yeah.
It will
Yeah.
it will make their day.
Absolutely. And even when they're not doing something well, which leads to inner awareness number 16 in your book, um, see their divinity and respond to their divinity, um, which, inner awareness number 16 is understanding and forgiveness is the mind of the master, which is what you basically said.
Understanding replaces
Replaces
forgiveness
forgiveness. Excuse me. Yeah. Yeah.
in the mind of the master.
Yeah.
In other words, I was told by God, Neale, God doesn't forgive anybody anything. I will never forgive you for anything. I said, what? What are you saying? God doesn't forgive me? God said, Neale, God is the highest, the biggest power in the universe. Do you really think that anything that little old Neale could do that could hurt, anger, upset, frustrate, or annoy me in such a way that I would have to forgive you? Any more than you have to forgive a 2-year-old child for misbehaving at the dinner table? If your 2-year-old granddaughter is just misbehaving at the dinner table because she wants more attention, you don't turn to her and say, it's okay, sweetheart, Grandpa forgives you.
Yeah.
Because you know that forgiveness is not part of the equation.
Yeah.
You understand how a 2-year-old could behave that way. And understanding replaces forgiveness in the mind of the master, and compassion replaces fault finding in the mind of the master.
Wow, compassion replaces fault finding and understanding replaces forgiveness. What a great way to actually see, because I constantly get the question, how do I forgive? How do I let go? Well, let's replace forgiveness with understanding, and there's no longer a need to forgive. That is powerful, absolutely powerful.
I mean, it's more powerful for me than you might know, because it also brought up for me, who am I to forgive? Who do I think I am? I'm going to forgive somebody else for something they have done? Excuse me. I don't need to forgive anyone for anything. You know, I merely need to understand. And by the way, one of the things I understand a lot is moments when I have said or done something very similar.
Yes, we all
Yeah,
have. Yes.
yeah, yeah. So it's kind of like, wait a minute. If I can understand how it was possible for me to behave that way, maybe I can extend that same understanding to the other person right now.
Yes. Wow.
Then I don't need to forgive them. I simply need to move into compassion and to say, thank you. Thank you for being who you are. And I want you to
Yeah.
know that I love you, and my love for you is not dependent on anything that I get from you.
Wow. Wow. Absolutely. Wow. Compassion and understanding. And who am I to forgive? To forgive because I've done similar things. That is beautiful.